How's everybody doing? So I just want to point out something on these ballast cars that slipped by me and I never noticed, and I'm adding them in now, and I want to show you how you can add little details to cars even if you're partway through paint or whatever. Now these are the latest Rapido ballast cars that were just released, and they're beautiful cars, and I'll tell you why. Number one, they're all metal, like all these bucket troughs, for dispersing the ballast, along the top of the rail as they do. All this underside here is all metal. I mean, maybe some of this is plastic, but it actually feels like metal. But anyway, they're quite heavy. And they remind me of the really excellent trailer train shorter flat cars that they made a while back that were all metal pretty much as well. And they track beautifully, and these cars also track beautifully. And I love them. Like these short cars, like this would be about 2010, so they're really aged and probably just for MOW service now. But one of the main things was the missing jack pads, and I never noticed it until somebody pointed it out to me the other day when we were at the shop. Now I'll just show you a prototype photo. You can see them, right? So right here, see the jack pads right there, just above the truck, attached to the frame, one there and one there, right? Okay. So guess what? There are no jack pads on the Rapido BC Rail ballast car. So I thought, well, you know what? I want to add them. They're significant, especially in my case, because on River Road, using the ferry, etc., it uses like jack stands, like the car on the bow and the stern. Usually what they do is they put a jack on it and they lift the car up. Not that high, but just to shift the weight to the center of the ferry so the cars don't roll off the deck in a pitching sea. And I thought, well, if there's no jack pads, how are they going to deal with ballast cars, heavy ballast cars? And besides, it's prototypical, right? So what I did was I decided to make jack pads. You can see I've made them here out of evergreen plastic. I've scraped the paint off. I'll just show you on this one. And I added them in, see? And all they are is just a piece of channel and some flat 10 thou by 125 stock. They're actually quite simple and they look good. I mean, they're a small detail, but they're significant, right? So what I did was this is metal. I scraped off the paint here to score the surface a bit, because I'm going to use CA to attach these on, and then matte medium to finally seal them, right? Okay? And how I made them was I made them on a little piece of strip like this. See that? Piece of evergreen plastic. And I'll show you the two items that I used for that. I used number 106 10 thou by 125, which is the strip. Okay? And then you can see this is channel number 263. And what I did was I just cut, just sliced the channel. That's about 1/8 of an inch. Just made a whole bunch. Used one to measure the other one so they're all the same. And then I used solvent to weld them onto the strip. Just flush to one side like that. And then I just nibbled them off. Just eyeballed them off, right? So now I basically have jack stands that I can attach to the car. And I'll show you how I attach them. So I take a little bit of CA, or super glue in this case. I've sanded the bottom of the plastic jack stand, and this is all scored. I'm just going to put just a tiny drop of medium CA. Now this is the part that you want to make sure that you get the first time if you can. So I'm going to line this up just in a little ways from the side of the car. And just press it down like that, and it should grab right away. So now there you go, right? The mounted jack pad is in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask this off, because I probably got to pull out the airbrush because I got a few other things to do on this car on the ends. And I'll just get in close and I'll just airbrush that out dark brown and just touch a bit of green on the outside. And then but before I paint that, before I do, I'm going to take some matte medium with a wet brush, and I'm just going to run a bead around. I'll show you on this one. Just wet the brush, dip it into straight matte medium, and then I just capillary a bead around the whole jack pad. And you want to know why? If you just trust CA, eventually it'll form a blister between the paint and on the plastic, and it can get knocked off. You can just flick them off like that. Some might take a year or 5 years, but they get banged and they fall off, right? If you use CA and then let it dry and then put a bead of matte medium around it, it's never going to come off. Like, you'd have to pry it off with a knife, really, you would. Because matte medium is a paint, so it'll grab the paint like a glue. It's actually, carpenters could use this for gluing wood, but they won't because it's cost prohibitive, right? But it's a paint medium, right? Matte medium. You can mix with acrylic paint. Creates a matte finish, right? Extends color, etc. And is an excellent adhesive that I use for all my terrain and lots of model parts. So that's what I'm going to do. And then that way I end up with the detail on this model that really completes it. Why they left them off could be a myriad of reasons. It could have been late in the game and it's too late to change the dyes. I get that. They may have thought, well, they could have added them, but if they did at the factory, there's a good chance, because they always use CA at the factory. They don't actually use matte medium. I don't believe they do. They should now, though, after they do that, because they won't get knocked off. And when you get your model at home and you take it out, you don't have little jack pads floating around in the bottom of the tray of your box. So that's how I'm fixing that, and that makes these cars excellent, because they're already great to begin with, okay?